For this virtual tour stop, we're standing in a 23-year-old stand of longleaf pine that was artificially regenerated in an old abandoned Bermuda grass field. So we talk about longleaf pine management, and while red cockaded woodpecker, especially when we're talking about in the sandhills of North Carolina, tends to be a pretty common management objective, there's a lot of different things you can do with this species. So looking around, you'll notice this definitely would not qualify as a high-quality red cockaded woodpecker foraging habitat. But from a timber management perspective, it's fully, if not overstocked at this point. And what I'd like to draw your attention to is down. Go ahead and look down. You'll notice we have a nice carpet of pine straw across the stand, and that's what we've been doing in here for about the last 10 years, is we've been primarily managing these stands and keeping them at a high density so that we can produce pine straw, which is a commercially valuable and highly desirable landscaping mulch down here in the southeast. So if we look down and I just start to dig, you can see I've got this nice red straw on top. I get down below it and I get a little bit of gray straw. Eventually I hit the sandbox that these trees are growing on, but I've got about 2.5 to 3 inches of straw on this. And what that translates into from a production standpoint is, on these stands, I know this because I've been selling the pine straw here for a while, we're usually producing anywhere from 150 to 200 bales of pine straw per acre per year on this stand. We harvest the pine straw off of these stands every 2 to 3 years. So if you do the math, we're looking at, anywhere from $300 to $400 per acre when we do those biennial sales. So it can be quite lucrative. Actually, if you were to do the math on it, we usually end up making a little bit more money off the pine straw than we would on the timber rotation itself. I mentioned we usually don't rake every year. As you might imagine, when you're removing this pine straw from the understory or from the ground layer, that can have negative effects on the stand. We're exposing the soil directly to, what little sunlight's actually getting down through the canopy onto the floor in here. We're also potentially removing nutrients from the site. So we try not to rake every year. Some landowners do, we choose not to. We've actually started phasing more towards every 3 years, to further reduce kind of the stress on the stand associated with that nutrient and cover removal. But to manage pine straw, we're pretty much trying to maintain pretty high densities, 90 square feet and up, 90 to about 150 square feet of basal area. I know that's on the high end, but once we kind of hit that high threshold, then we typically think about thinning these stands back. Sometimes we thin them down to 80 to 90 square feet of basal area, wait a few years, and then try to rake pine straw again. In other stands, the big challenge that we have is we do this for a couple of years, and then we want to change the focus of our management from this plantation setting towards more of ecosystem restoration or red cockaded woodpecker habitat restoration. And I think it's possible. So with that, I'm going to shut this video off and I'm going to show you a stand where we've tried to take a plantation like this and steer it towards a more, I guess, complex and more natural appearing structure for the end goal of becoming red cockaded woodpecker habitat down the road.